What's up, everybody? This is Antonio Sierra, podiatrist and running coach, and today we're going to be talking about ankle sprains, the truth about bracing, taping, and high top footwear. As always, if you'd like to see the written version of this lesson, as well as all the included diagrams and pictures, as well as all my other lessons, you can see those under my course called the Peaks Formula in my website at peaksrunning.co. So today we're going to choose a topic that's a little bit different from some of the other topics I talk about, in that this is something that applies not only to runners, but a lot of multi-sport athletes and athletes that do sports that have a lot of lateral movements and quick adjustments that occur at high velocities. And that's kind of where things started for me. Growing up playing a lot of basketball, and I had many different ankle sprains, and this kind of goes through a lot of my experiences with having multiple ankle sprains, particularly on my left foot, and looking at what the research says in relation to how we best prevent ankle sprains, the efficacy, again, of bracing, taping, how helpful high-toe footwear actually is, and then how do we create stronger and more stable ankles to prevent recurrent sprains in the future. So starting off with a little bit of a story, and again, I recall many sprains, and one in particular from when I was in high school basketball practice one day, and we're doing this dribbling drill, and you're quickly moving in and out of cones, and all of a sudden, bam, my left ankle just gave out, and I'm immediately on the ground, I'm grimacing in pain. And for many people reading this, they will be able to recall a similar story of having a severely painful ankle sprain. And I had that happen on multiple occasions, and I probably limped home, iced it, put my leg up for a few days, and then was working back to activity by the end of the week. Unfortunately, going from high school to college, this issue became more and more of a problem, and I started running collegiately. Only I was no longer playing basketball, just running. But I suffered multiple sprains just running during cross-country season, and it got to the point where my confidence in my ability to step on any surface that had the slightest tilt to it gave me major concern. And since that time, I've incredibly been able to run or hike over 10,000 miles for sure, with several thousand of those being on technical running trails without a single significant ankle sprain on my left foot, again, which was my worst one. And what follows from here that I'll go through is a compilation of what the research says and how it coincides with my anecdotal experience on how to actually limit ankle sprains in the present and create stronger and more stable ankles for years to come. So the first part we're going to here is the deception of the protection of high top sneakers and boots. And here, another story. In the fall of 2016, I was getting into a lot of backpacking and hiking, and I had this goal of doing a through hike of the Pacific Crest Trail during the summer of 2017. So I did my first multi-day overnight backpack trip in Western Pennsylvania on the Lower Highlands hiking trail, close to where I was going to college. And it was about 70 miles trail. I was trying to do it in 3 days, which at that time seemed pretty ambitious. And, I was setting out in my very short yellow neon running shorts and these tall, clunky, ankle-high hiking boots, probably 20 pounds on my back, and I was on my way. And the memories that are most vivid from this trip are that was on the last day when I was trying to chase the sunset and to get to my car before it was completely dark out. I probably didn't even have like a headlamp or something like that at this time. Was not prepared. And all I can remember is just constantly rolling my ankle more times than I've ever in my life. And eventually I'm just making this big descent down to my car, and I'm just bouncing from rock to rock, and my ankles are just getting shakier and shakier, and my mind was just increasingly indecisive. Like, it was just not good. I just need to get off these trails, right? And again, I wore specifically hiking boots, not running shoes or trail running shoes because I was told that that was what you do to protect your ankles. And what happened instead was probably making my ankles more susceptible to damage than they otherwise would have been. So while on one hand, some studies show that high top sneakers can decrease peak ankle inversion rate in ankles, the following is under controlled static conditions in most cases. When it comes to evaluating the rate of ankle sprains on players during activities such as those playing basketball, there have been little to no difference found between those wearing high top sneakers compared to those wearing low top sneakers. Now, why is this the case? In a study by Fu et al., they tested muscle activation in a group of 13 physical education students under a variety of inversion and plantar flexion angles while wearing both high top and low top sneakers. In that study, they found that when wearing high top sneakers and stressing the foot into inversion, which is again rolling the ankle inward, the participants had a significantly decreased reaction time in the peroneus brevis and peroneus longus muscle bellies. These are the two muscles on the outside of the ankle that act to evert the foot and prevent that ankle from rolling inward or spraining as compared to wearing low top sneakers. This means that while the high top color may prevent the foot, and again, may, from inverting to the same degree as when wearing a low top sneaker, it is a bit mixed and shoe dependent, of course. It comes at the cost of dramatically dampening the body's natural response to preventing the ankle from spraining in the first place. This goes without saying that the degree to which high top sneakers prevent inversion stress is unlikely to be sufficient to prevent ankle sprains anyways, and the injury rate has been found to be higher when wearing high top shoes as compared to low top shoes while also wearing a brace. So let's make sense of things. So why exactly does this happen? Why does muscle activity change, increasing the likelihood of an ankle sprain when wearing a high top sneaker instead of a low top sneaker? Well, there's a few different theories with mixed data to support. One theory is that a high top shoe may feel safer to the brain and subconsciously lead to slower and decreased muscle activation because the high top collar provides some kind of illusion of protection. Secondarily, when the ankle is wrapped up in a tight constricted band or high top collar, your brain senses that the joint is secure and the neuromuscular system adapts by decreasing activation of the muscles that would usually help stabilize the ankle. Thirdly, there's some research to suggest that while wearing an ankle brace continuously for at least 8 weeks will not influence peroneal muscle latency, which is the rate of firing or the ankle joint proprioception, it will start to decrease amplitude or the strength of the peroneal muscle firing. So this kind of reflects what many have come to know as the use it or lose it phenomenon, and the following would kind of go like this. The brain perceives greater stabilization of the ankle with a brace. The brace takes on some of the load of the resisting unstable forces to the ankle that the peroneal muscles usually would. This then results in decreased strength of the muscles over time, leading to the muscles' ability to resist an ankle sprain if the foot does begin to invert, diminishing over time. There have yet to be any long-term studies beyond a 2-month study period evaluating how these factors could change over an even longer period of time, so that is a little bit to be determined. And then even more so, there's still a phenomenon through which high top collars should, in theory, actually increase ankle proprioception. That's through the receptors on our skin. When the mechanoreceptors on our skin around the level of our ankle recognize something is snug and encapsulating it, this feedback should, in theory, increase the brain's perception of where the ankle is in space, i.e. its proprioception. And this increased awareness should, again, help prevent ankle sprains. The problem with this is that even if a high top collar is tied and snug as can be, which for most athletes it's usually not because it's uncomfortable, the collar will gradually loosen up with time, which will lead to inconsistent sensory feedback to the brain, and the neuromuscular dampening effect of the peroneal muscles will, in the end, prevail. In the end, the resulting acute and modern term effects of wearing high-top shoes seems to be negative, or at best neutral. Now we'll talk about ankle bracing and taping. The research on the efficacy of ankle bracing is quite extensive and indeed very supportive of its use. In a 1994 randomized controlled trial looking at over 1,600 intramural basketball players at West Point over a 2-year period. They found 1.6 sprains per every 1,000 in individuals wearing a semi-rigid brace versus 5.2 sprains per every 1,000 that did not wear a brace. Survey et al. Found a 5-time reduction in recurrent ankle sprains in athletes wearing a semi-rigid ankle brace versus those that did not. Notice the fact that these significant improvements in ankle sprain rates are noted when wearing semi-rigid ankle braces as compared to lace-up ankle braces that athletes commonly wear within their shoes or their cleats. Semi-rigid braces not only are able to resist greater inversion forces, but they're not susceptible to loosening and needing to be retightened, as in the case of lace-up braces, which is similarly an issue with high-top shoes, as we previously discussed. Now, what about the efficacy of taping? One of the downfalls of taping is that it will similarly lose its efficacy of resisting ankle motion with the initiation of play. But it does so even quicker than lace-up braces or high-top sneakers, with one study showing that athletic tape loses up to 50% of its mechanical restriction ability within 30 minutes of playing, and is essentially ineffective after an hour of playing without being retaped. However, there could be some additional benefit of trying to add in taping in addition to an ankle brace, which can prevent recurrent ankle sprain risk by around 50 to 70%. Due to tape's rapid reduction in efficacy, it is likely that many athletes will participate in high velocity sports with less support in reality than they believe they have, which will then likely increase their risk of injury. So I think a good semi-rigid external brace, while it can be costly as compared to a lace-up brace or using tape, for the additional security, many may find it worth the investment. Last part here is reclaiming what has been lost. And too often we choose to protect rather than enable. We'd rather put young children in closed areas so they can't hurt themselves rather than allow them to explore their boundaries and acquire new information that will make them better equipped and stronger in the future. One is easy to do, and the other takes time to train while presenting a multitude of potential dangers. The same goes between deciding whether to brace or not to brace. And this comes down to the fundamental question that we're exploring here. How can we best protect our ankles and prevent the likelihood of future ankle sprains without disabling our body's natural protective mechanisms to prevent ankle sprains in the first place? Really, as you would suspect, regaining ankle strength and proprioception is key to everything. In 2015 and 2016, when I first accrued many of those ankle sprains on my left foot and began feeling very unstable despite going to physical therapy, I decided to slowly test it out and took my time. I began going out to technical hiking trails in low-top sneakers and slowly allowing my ankle to adjust to different foot positions at a multitude of different angles, making sure to go slow enough that I didn't have any recurrent sprains, and that part is critical. There's extensive research that foot strengthening and single leg balancing exercises have been shown to increase ankle proprioception as well as improve balance through training of your central nervous system as well. This process, how long it takes exactly, we don't know for sure. It can take weeks, months, even years to take shape, as validated by my experience. And I believe that not giving this process adequate time is what leads many to rush into surgery, maybe unnecessarily. Every time you roll the ankle and tear a ligament or excessively stretch or tear a tendon, mechanoreceptors that help provide proprioception and prevent sprains are damaged and slowly must be retrained. Each time you develop new tears, the process restarts anew. I personally became insistent to take my time with this and not continue to set myself back. Eventually I got to the point where I felt comfortable running in small doses on trails, and then by 2017, 2018, I was able to hike over 2,000 miles on the Pacific Crest Trail without a single ankle sprain, which was huge. At that time, and over the last decade, I've hiked or run on trails in trail running shoes or just general running shoes and trails that aren't super technical. And at that time, and since then, there are moments that the ankle will begin to turn, but it quickly will snap back into alignment once it does. And that is the power of a well-trained and stable ankle. So to summarize everything, research shows that a decrease in ankle inversion angles and ankle sprain rates when wearing low-top shoes compared to high-top shoes. The following are usually under static and controlled conditions. There is no consistent data showing a difference in ankle sprain rate in athletes between those wearing high-top and low-top sneakers when they're actually playing. High top shoes blunt the body's natural protective mechanism against ankle sprains by slowing down and decreasing the firing rate of the perineal muscles, which usually help prevent ankle sprains by everting the foot. Lace-up ankle braces and athletic tape do provide resistance to inversion forces, leading to ankle sprains better than high-top shoes, but both do loosen up and lose efficacy the longer the athlete is playing, increasing susceptibility to sprains. Semi-rigid braces are preferred, with studies that show the best results in reducing recurrent ankle sprains being in athletes wearing semi-rigid braces. Training ankle strength and proprioception is paramount to preventing recurrent sprains. The following can take time and must not be rushed. Rushing the process can lead to preemptive surgery, which may not be necessary and will always come with potential complications. There is potential that ankle brace use can increase the likelihood of other lower extremity injuries, particularly at the knee, due to increased compensation that must occur in response to a restriction of ankle joint range of motion. And these are my take-home point recommendations. So I would recommend that athletes playing high velocity sports with a history of ankle sprains should wear low top shoes with the use of a semi-rigid ankle brace that is external, which means it will go on the outside of the shoe, which I will give an example of in a moment. Research is mixed on the use of a brace without history of an ankle sprain. So it's kind of up to each individual person, their choice. Wearing one may be worthwhile if they do not feel that it dramatically affects their performance. If exercising at lower velocities on technical terrain or doing activities that require lateral movements or movements on uneven surfaces, so this is hiking or maybe casually playing amateur tennis or pickleball, I would emphasize foot and ankle strengthening with single leg stability work and slowly work into low top sneakers or trail running shoes without a brace once that person is comfortable doing so. If wearing a brace with a low top shoe for a high velocity sport, I recommend using the Takeo Athletic X brace. The following is an external semi-rigid brace, again, meaning that it goes on the outside of the shoe, it goes over the shoe. So it takes away that discomfort that many feel with wearing a lace-up brace inside the shoe. The Takeo brace also is light, and because it does not provide a snug fit on the ankle and lower leg, it will not dramatically change how you feel while participating in that sport. But it'll still have the guardrails on both sides of the ankle, so that if you do have a sprain, it'll block that motion. If you'd like to purchase any Takeo brace off of their website at takeobrace.com, you can use my code Dr. Sierra, that's in all caps, and you can get $10 off your order in addition to free shipping. And that's all I got. Hope that is helpful for you. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to drop them in the comment box below, and I will see you again soon.